Okay, Assalamu alaikum. We went live on Instagram and I went live, inshallah, on YouTube. So, inshallah, once we are ready with Zoom and Facebook, inshallah, we'll start bi'idhnillah azza wa jal. Maybe in about a minute, inshallah. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sure, we're having problem to connect with Facebook. I don't think I can go live with Facebook via Zoom.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay, just make a note, inshallah, on Facebook that we're having problems and let them head either to YouTube or Instagram.
okay, inshallah.
Yeah.
A moment.
I hope everybody's doing well. I mean, just to let you know, inshallah, we're just waiting on the sisters in Zoom, inshallah, to start. So hopefully in a minute or so, inshallah. Remember.
Okay, sure. I'm going to start the recording, yeah?
Inshallah. Go ahead, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Today we have reached Hadith number 15 and 16 for the Heart Therapy Book Club. Jazakallah khairan for all the guidance on this, how to purify our heart. So today, Hadith 15, the heart and Allah's forgiveness, and 16 is the merciful heart. We have lots of questions, inshallah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Okay. I go straight to the question, Sheikh?
Go ahead, inshallah. Yes, go ahead.
Hadith 15, the heart and Allah's forgiveness. Question number 1. In Hadith 15, you have described the danger in Shahna. Are there any tips or ways to forgive a person that had betrayed us?
No, okay. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Allahumma yassir wa a'in rabbal alameen. So the first question is that, is there any tips about forgiving someone who had betrayed us? And of course, the issue of forgiveness is one that is fundamental to our life, because on the one hand, we're asking Allah to forgive us. And we know that when we stand before Allah Azza wa Jal, we are flawed. So we need Allah to forgive us. But also with other human beings, we commit a lot of mistakes. So we need them to forgive us too. So in order to obtain all of that, we need to be willing to forgive. So the question is, if somebody had betrayed us, if someone had betrayed us, we have to see, for instance, I mean, did they apologize? Did they try to reconcile, reconnect with us, admit their mistake or not? So that's one thing. But the other thing also is to put yourself in their place. And I think I mentioned that in the book. I mean, you put yourself in their place. Would you want Allah to forgive you? So if you want Allah to forgive you, you'd be willing to forgive. And when you put yourself in their place, you would say to yourself that if I were to commit that mistake, and none of us is above committing mistakes, okay, and we should fear shirk for ourselves. So if that's the case, we could commit any other mistake. So if we commit that mistake, if we imagine that we have done this thing, would we want others to forgive us, to overlook our momentary weakness, and then look at our whole life or our potential and say, okay, I'm deciding to forgive you because I can see potential in you. I'm deciding to forgive you because I know all the other things that you have done and are doing or you could do. If I want Allah Azza wa Jalla to forgive me despite the terrible things that I'm doing every single day, I must be willing to forgive. So if somebody had betrayed you, try to transcend beyond the personal hurt, the personal pain, and to switch places with them and say, if I was that person doing it for someone else and I went sincerely and I asked them, forgive me, would they forgive me? Would I want to be forgiven? Right? And even if not, on the day of judgment, if I am standing before Allah Azza wa Jalla, I have all the good deeds here, all the bad deeds here, and the difference is going to be that bad thing that so-and-so did not forgive. Do I want to send that person to hell? So that the process of forgiveness is for us to sympathize, to imagine that we are that person, to imagine that we need forgiveness from other people, so we should practice it, and we need forgiveness from Allah, so we also should practice it. Plus the rewards that Allah Azza wa Jalla is going to give us when we forgive. So those are few of the tips, inshallah. And when you are betrayed, it's hard to forgive, but what's going to help is to go back to the Quran and to keep reading it, and to consult the Quran and the Sunnah on the virtue of forgiveness. That is going to revive in you the desire and the willingness to actually go and forgive. Not the hurt. The hurt is going to ask you to punish. What's going to propel you to forgive is to go and ask Allah, why should I forgive? Because you're always looking for compensation, for that reward that is going to come and fill your heart with satisfaction. Why should I forgive? Allah will tell you. His Prophet ﷺ will tell you. And so forgiveness becomes possible, inshallah. And I'm going to try, inshallah. I can't go on and on about speak in as much detail I would like about each question, because I would like to answer as many of them as possible. So when you're listening, inshallah, to these questions, even though it's not your question, listen to each one of them, because some of what you've asked is going to be in one of these questions, inshallah. I'm going to refer back to it and said, as I said previously. So inshallah, so this is about forgiveness, but there will be other hadith about it, other questions about it. So we'll come back to it, inshallah. So sympathy and wanting Allah's forgiveness is what's going to, inshallah, make it more possible to forgive those who betray us. And I mean, think about it. I mean, we betray our pledge with Allah Azza wa Jalla maybe almost every day. We commit sins every day. We betray people's trust. We do. We spread their secrets, talk bad behind their back. We do betray them. But if we were to be found out, we would want people to forgive us. The same thing, inshallah, with them when we find out the mistakes that they have done. Allahu a'lam.
Okay, inshallah. Question number 2, Sheikh. In Islam, is it okay to fill up our cup first before filling others' need? Do we need to sacrifice our needs to put others first?
Okay. So the question here is about, okay, do I need to sacrifice my needs for the sake of others, or fulfill my needs first before I fulfill others' needs? See, this word need, right, is again an ambiguous word. That what do we mean by needs? There are essential needs, and then what we can call non-essential needs, what we think that we need, but we don't really need. Those are not equivalent needs, right? So what do you put first? What you are able to sacrifice depends on what is essential and what is not, and what you are capable of living without and what you cannot. So there is no one answer that's going to fit everybody here. Do I need to take care of others before myself? We say, no, you can't do that. Do I need to fulfill all my rights before I fulfill others' rights? We say at the same time, you cannot do that. So where is the line? The line is on the halal and haram first. Halal and haram. That is, if your needs are essential and you can't live without them, you obviously cannot sacrifice your needs for the sake of others unless you are willing at times to sacrifice your life for the sake of somebody else. And we can't always ask people to do that. That is, and that question is so generic, right? That is, it has so many different scenarios. So you think about it. If I have food and somebody comes and asks me for it, and I'm hungry and they are hungry, am I required to give it to them and deprive myself? We can't say that, but it's virtuous. Unless you're going to kill yourself, right? Unless that's the case, it's virtuous. And many of the Sahaba or the Salaf, they would desire some food. They'd be waiting for it. Their families would cook it specially for them because they know that they love it. And when they're about to sit and eat it, somebody comes and knocks on the door asking for food, for sadaqah. They'll take it and give it to them, and they will go and eat bread. And the family would complain, we cooked this especially for you. He says, no, don't talk to me about this. This is what pleases me. So, of course, here, that person had put others before himself, even in things that he likes. So, does he have to? No. This is what sunnah, this is recommended. You don't have to take the food that you love and give it to some, you can share it, but he gave everything. So where it stops, okay, where it begins, it depends on you. Depends on you. Depends on halal and depends on haram. Depends on the obligations that are on you, that Allah had put on you, versus the recommendations. So maybe I can say it's a balance. It's a balance. You can't say I'm going to need to take care of all my needs first and ignore others. And you can't say I'll fulfill all of their needs and ignore my needs, which include also my children's needs and my wife's needs. You can't do that. It's ultimately a balance where you have enough of your own needs fulfilled that you can give it to other people without harming yourself and without harming your family and those that you're responsible for. Now, what you can live with, that is going to be different. I may not be able to give up a lot. Somebody else will be able to give a lot more. Maybe like in the example that I gave, somebody may not be able to give up their lunch. That's it. My lunch is my lunch. I need my lunch. I have to eat this. I can't donate that. I cannot be hungry and donate that. Somebody else can. You say, do I need to do this or that? He says, need depending on the level of your iman and practice, what you can live without, what you can live with. You say, but I mean, okay, what's the limit? You say, halal and haram is your basic limit. If Allah has obligated something on you that you should give up, you have to give this up. I'm too lazy, I don't want to pray. And you have no option here. I love money too much, I don't want to go to Hajj or give zakah. No, you have no option here. Zakah needs to be given. This is putting the rights of others before your love of money. Even if you say, oh, I need that money. No, Allah has said they need it more than you. You see how it is? But now when it comes to recommended sadaqah, Allah did not force you. Do I need to give recommended sadaqah? You don't need to, but it's good that you do. And if you do it, it will treat a lot of. This is when you give to others, even though you may need, you may like, but you give this up for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jalla, to help others. So that's where it is. So ultimately we say it's a balance. For most of us, it's going to be a balance. Take some of your rights, but know that you will not be able to, as a questioner said, fill your cup. You cannot fill. You can't get everything. So you take some and give others as much as you can of theirs and maintain a balance. And as long as you're maintaining a balance, alhamdulillah, this is the minimum that we want, where I take and I give. The next step is I'd be willing to give more than I take. I know this is only possible when I receive from Allah Azza wa Jal, meaning that when I put my needs and I give my needs to Allah, Ya Allah, I need this. I don't need it from them. I need it from you. And when I understand that Allah can satisfy my needs, I can give without receiving. Wallahu a'lam.
Okay, if I can ask quick one, I have a sister shared that she just got children. I mean, young mom.
Mhm.
So basically, that if she can only pray the wajib prayers, the fard prayers, that would be like excellent for her because she doesn't have time. So, Sheikh, what would be your advice on like Quran recitation? Because to me, it's like Quran is very important to keep you calm and keep you content. So, what would be your advice, Sheikh, for this kind of mother who struggling to salah on time and do the other obligations since they just have this new experience of having children.
Right. So of course, I mean, once you have a child, I understand that it can be very chaotic, very unsettling. You don't know how to manage your time yet. And so, I mean, try to consult mothers who have gone through this to understand how you can organize your time, how to deal with stress, and how to integrate the worship of Allah Azza wa Jal into your life, not to let that slide, not to let it to fade away, because you need it. As you said, Jazakumullah khair, as you said, you need the Quran. How are you going to maintain your patience and focus? How can you maintain the best of intentions when you're raising your children? How would you have guidance from Allah to raise your children right if you are not connected to Allah, if you're not connected with the Quran, if your salah is not on time? So you need all of that. So you need to prioritize as you are prioritizing your children. For their sake and for your own sake, you need to prioritize ibadah, worship, and prioritize the Quran and find those pieces. If space where I'm able to do all of this. If I can't read, I'll listen. Okay, if I cannot read, at least I will listen. If I can't pray, for instance, the sunnah, I'm just like, not just the obligation. If I cannot pray the sunnah standing, I can pray it sitting down. If I can't pray it, for instance, when the child is crying, I can carry the child and pray it. The thing here is what? The thing here is that to try to put the effort and not let that worship of Allah disappear from my life because I'm very busy. Whether it's an exam or series of exams, whether it is having a child, whether it is travel, you always needs to be connected to Allah Azza wa Jal, because if you let go of that ibadah, of course it's going to come back, or the absence, the gap is going to hurt you. And especially with the added stress of raising and having to take care of young children, that's going to really hurt. You're going to add to your stress and anxiety. So try to be connected, inshallah, all the time, and consult mothers on practical tips of what to do and how to do it, how to find the place and the space, and inshallah you will find it.
Question number 3, Sheikh. How do we prevent our heart from feeling that others are taking advantage of our kindness? Are we not considered sincere?
Right. So, I mean, the issue here is if I'm doing good and helping others, how do I stop feeling that they're taking advantage of my kindness? And is that like a lack of sincerity on my part? No, this could be a consequence of the shaitan sometimes, or even the self coming and telling you others are taking advantage of you. Stop doing the good that you're doing. Or maybe it is, in fact, others are taking advantage of you. Maybe it is. And at times, you're fine with it. You're fine. I'm willing. I'm to give them my time. I'm willing, inshallah, to assist. I'm fine with that. At other times, it may have gone too far. So first of all, consider that it's possibility that this is a whisper from the shaitan, or a whisper from the self that is weak and stingy and greedy and doesn't want to help. Say, why should I help them and they're not helping me? If I help them and assist them, or if they need something from me, which is common, I myself, these thoughts have come to me. Okay, if they need me, they call me. If I need them, they don't call, or they don't pick up, or they don't oblige, or they don't rush to assist, but they expect you to do that. Are they not taking advantage of me? So you say to yourself, now, if I'm doing this to get something from them, I'm going to feel like that. Okay? The way to escape it, the first thing is to say, whatever good you're doing, let it be for Allah Azza wa Jal, with the understanding that I don't need anything from them. Nothing from them. And the more you practice this, and unfortunately with more disappointments, we're going to learn this. I don't want, like when I'm helping this person, I don't want a single thing from them. And that is also part of the reason why when we hear Jazakumullahu khaira, we say wa iyyakum. That's part of the reason. One of it is we're making dua for each other. Like when you sincerely say Jazakumullah, may Allah reward you abundantly for this. You say and two. So yes, you are making dua for each other. But also the reason, as Aisha radiallahu anha, when she saw one time sent a gift for someone, then her servant came, and Aisha asked, what did they say? Servant said, they said Jazakumullahu khaira. She said wa iyahum, and says and to them. نقول كما قالوا, it says we will say as they say to us, ويبقى الأجر لنا, and the reward remains with us. Meaning, I didn't say it so that they thank me and say Jazakumullahu khaira. I didn't say it to be praised, to be recognized, to hear nice words from them. No, they said something nice. I said and to you, so we are what? Equal. So I say the same to them as they said to me, and so my reward remains complete. Meaning, I didn't do it for anybody else. So here Aisha radiallahu anha wasn't giving them a gift so that they would give her back. So then she's not going to say they're taking advantage of me, because I don't need anything from them. So that's really important, and that's a mature way, and not an easy way, but a mature way of doing good deeds. Help without expecting any help. Okay? Second thing, inshallah, to keep in mind is that, and this is, I read, somebody wrote that once, and it's beautiful. Again, not always the easiest thing. He said, if somebody needs your help, they need it because Allah sent them to you. And they need it because they recognize that you can help, and they recognize the virtue that you have in being able to assist. So don't deny them. Okay? Whatever Allah had given you, don't deny that. And don't deny the fact that Allah had sent that to you so that you can assist them and gain and reap rewards because of it. When you look at it this way, you look at helping other people as an advantage. Okay? As your advantage, not theirs, your advantage. Because Allah had opened a door for you to be able to help. But at times, okay, yes, true. Others can cross the line and ask more of you than what you can do. When you find that you no longer are able to help, they've crossed the line, and this is all recommended, by the way, it's not an obligation, right? When you see that, okay, they're crossing the line, I can no longer, I can't carry this anymore, I can't, for example, somebody needs your help, they keep calling you every single day, okay? You simply cannot handle this anymore, you need to stop it. When it reaches the point where you cannot help, that's it. I've reached my limit. You have to let them know that you've reached your limit. You can't help anymore. But before that, if that idea comes to you, ask yourself, am I doing it for their sake? If you're doing it for their sake, stop. Okay? Because, ultimately, I'm telling you, no one is worth helping for their own sake. Because they'll forget you. If you're doing it to be appreciated, that person is going to forget you. So why are you doing it for their sake? Okay, each person has their own interest, has their own life, has their own things that they worry about. Once they're done with you, okay, they're going to forget you. So why are you doing it for their sake? But if you are going to do it for Allah, do it and forget about it. Allah is not going to forget that you've done it. Forget about it when it comes to those people. So this is how, inshallah, to maintain, again, a balance between stopping the good that you're doing simply because you're thinking others are taking advantage of you, or also overwhelming yourself because you think I always need to keep helping. You don't need to keep helping all the time if it's now starting to harm you or harm your family, or it's actually reached your limit. I can't help you every single day. I can't give you, somebody needs help with money, let's say. You can give and give and give. At one point you'll say, okay, I don't have anything to give anymore. That's where your limit is. Same thing with your time, same thing with your effort, same thing with your advice. Once you reach the limit, you let people know that they've reached the limit, and that's it, inshallah. No one can blame you, inshallah. Wallahu a'lam. Yeah.
So question number 3. Are our hearts considered merciful when we forgive others to their misjudgment, but we maintain a cautious relationship since we don't want to be hurt? For example, we still maintain giving them their rights.
Inshallah. Yeah. It's a good question. I mean, so if I forgive somebody, but in a sense, I don't forgive them. And the question here is like, I don't forgive them like 100%, meaning I still maintain some distance, or I'm cautious around them because of that past mistake, past infraction, okay, sin. So I'm still cautious. So yeah, I'm giving them all their rights, and I'm nice to them and all of this, but I'm more cautious than before. So before I used to be very open with them. Now I'm not, let's say for instance, sharing all my secrets with them. I'm not very open. Is that caution or that distance considered to be unmerciful? No, it's not. Because what happens, or your experience should instruct your present and future, should teach you how to be and behave. So if you found that, let's say for instance, somebody cannot be trusted with secrets, you gave him a secret and he shared that with others, it's not wrong for you to stop sharing secrets with them, because you have learned that maybe they cannot keep secrets. So you forgave them, you're nice to them, you give them their rights, but when it comes to secrets, you're no longer sharing secrets with them. That is actually prudent, wise. So it's the same thing, because not everybody, right, is equipped to handle everything, right? With time, you'll discover a person's strengths and also weaknesses. So when you discover their weakness, if that is going to inform how you deal with them, then that's fine, inshallah. What is unmerciful, let's say, is despite their apology, despite their contrition, you still judge them and condemn them and insult them. That would be considered unmerciful, right? But mercy is not, you've accepted them, you've taken it back, you've forgiven them, but some distance, some caution, that I think is natural and wise. Wallahu a'lam. So I hope, inshallah, that was clear. Sure.
Question number 5. Naturally, our hearts will want to be loved and appreciated by others. Is that considered shirk?
So if you want to be loved, right, or you want to be appreciated, is that considered shirk? No, it's not considered shirk. As a basic human feeling, this is not considered shirk. It is shirk only when what? When you start worshipping Allah or practicing the worship of Allah for this. You start worshipping Allah, meaning salah, zakah, fasting, because of a person, right? That is considered shirk. But if you simply want to be loved, okay, so if you simply want to be loved, I'm not sure if we're interrupted on Zoom. If you simply want to be loved, if you simply want to be appreciated, acknowledged, okay, that's not shirk. Because you could be loved for worldly reasons. You want to be appreciated for worldly reasons. That's fine. That's not shirk in Allah Azza wa Jalla in any way. I want to, let's say, I want to graduate. And I want people to recognize when I graduate that I'm intelligent and I'm smart and this and that. That's not haram. You have to watch out for it, right? If that gets transferred into religious practice. So I'm fasting because I want people to appreciate me. I'm fasting out because I want people to love me. I'm fasting because I want people to praise me. That's the problem. But if you're being a doctor and you say, I want to, I don't know, save people's life because I want them to thank me, that's okay. That's okay. But you can't give sadaqah because you want people to thank you. That's the difference. But as a basic human need to be loved and appreciated, that's not shirk in Allah Azza wa Jalla. It's just how do you use it? In what area do you use it? When you use it in ibadah, that becomes may be problematic. Okay, and I'm saying may be problematic because why? Because if your intention is, I want to worship Allah for the sake of Allah, and as a consequence of that, I also want people to love me, you're okay. Okay? But if I want to worship Allah and the only thing I'm thinking about is I want people to love me, that's the mistake. So if I consider that I want also the love of people secondary to the love of Allah, because Allah loves me, they will love me, you're okay. You only focused on people's love and not Allah's love, then we're not okay. When it comes to worldly matters, there's no, inshallah, restriction there. So as a basic need, it's not shirk, inshallah. Allah.
Sheikh, but would it open doors to, like, you're doing it for the other person's favor, like you mentioned just now? If you're starting to do like because to be loved and appreciated, would it open door to other things that will make us weak, for example, and not doing it purely 100% for the sake of Allah? How does it go, Sheikh?
Yeah, no, I mean, it can. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I said that in worldly matters, it's allowed, but watch out for the fact that if it becomes your focus all the time, it can transfer easily into religious matters. So if you're a person who is focused only, like whatever I'm doing, and on the worldly side, I'm doing what I'm doing because I want praise, I want praise, I want praise. If that's what your personality had become, you've allowed it to become like that. When you worship religiously, you will transfer the same personality to your worship. So you worship because you want to be praised. So you're fixated on what praise and what people say about you, how they see you. So you're always pretending. Okay, and it's kind of a selfish gaze at yourself all the time. I want to be praised, I want to be inflated, I want to be commended all the time. That is the problem. But if, let's say, for instance, just purely somebody does it, like I've saved a person's life, let's say, and I expect them to say thank you to me. I didn't do it for the sake of Allah. I simply saved their life and I want them to thank me, or I want people to see it and praise me. That in itself is not haram, because this is worldly. This is worldly, right? It's not haram. Okay, but the problem is that if it becomes a habit, it's a flaw in a personality. I'm only doing it not to save them, but to be praised. So I'm not worried about them, I'm worried about me. That's the selfishness we're talking about. If I'm a doctor or a lawyer or engineer or as a social worker, right? If I'm doing it only to be praised, then I don't care about other people. I only care about myself and how that benefits me. So when I become that person, when I start to worship Allah Azza wa Jal, I'm using the same personality in that worship, meaning I don't care about the ibadah, I care about what it's bringing to me, what people will say about me. That's the problem with it. The escape, not to do for the sake of people and their praise and how they will see you. Do for the merit of the action. What is the merit of being a doctor? I'm saving people. Okay, depends on what type of doctor you are, but I'm saving people. If you're working with infectious diseases, right? You're trying to find a vaccine, because that's what we're trying to find right now, right? Why is it? Well, because I want to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Well, I don't really care then about saving people. I want the prize. I want the name. I want the title. That's what I'm after. So if you're that person, it's a flaw. Okay, we can't say it's a sin. It's selfish. We can't say it's a sin because it's in worldly matters. But when you move it now, when you start moving it into religious matters, yeah, it becomes very problematic. So ultimately, you want to avoid doing things for the sake of people. You want to do it for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, or if not for the sake of Allah in worldly matters, for the sake of the action itself being virtuous. Okay, that's what you want to do it for. Inshallah.
Okay, inshallah, alhamdulillah. Question number 6, Sheikh. How to cultivate fear of Allah in our kids?
Right. So how to cultivate fear of Allah in our kids? I'd say, rather than saying fear of Allah, and say, how do we get our kids to be close to Allah? That's what I want to hear, inshallah. How do we get our children to be close to Allah? And they get close to Allah Azza wa Jal with this cocktail of love of Allah, fear of Allah, and hope in Allah. You have to have the three. So it's not just fear of Allah. But you have to stress loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and hoping to get from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So maybe and you'd have to understand the developments of your children, and when it is prudent or wise to introduce fear, and when it is wiser to introduce hope and love. So if they're young, really young, and you want them to know Allah Azza wa Jal, you're not going to introduce Allah Azza wa Jal by saying Allah will punish you, Allah will burn you. They're too young and you'll terrify them. But rather you want Allah will give you. Allah loves you. Okay? That is the incentive. This is how you begin with, not the fear of Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah will put you in hell, and they're 4 and 5 or 6, and Allah will put you in hell if you do this. So the relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal is one that is, terrifying. Allah is right there waiting to punish me, to kill me or what. So let it be, inshallah, in the beginning, an attractive relationship. And then later on, right, when you want the borders that will stop them from committing haram or sin, right, in general, right, or inappropriate actions, you introduce the fear of Allah Azza wa Jal, but never only the fear of Allah without the other elements. How to do it, right, is beyond really what we can discuss right now. I mean, by teaching them Islam, using stories you find in the Quran, in the Sunnah, by being the example, by making dua for them. These are just few things, inshallah, but taking it, starting early, and using kind of multiple instruments, right? So as I said, you yourself become an example. You teach them. You worship Allah Azza wa Jal. You tell them why they're worshiping Allah, multiple reasons, because you love Him, you want something from Him, and also you're afraid of other things that only Allah can protect you from. And you continue working on that, inshallah, and then that is going to give that to them, Wallahu a'lam. But again, inshallah, it's beyond the scope of the answers that we're giving here today, inshallah, to be able to give everything. But inshallah, a few points that will help you.
Question number 7, Sheikh, on page 200, Surah Al-Shura, verses 20. But whoever pardons and makes reconciliation, then his reward is with Allah. Does pardoning always involve reconciliation? Have we truly forgiven if we don't reconcile?
Okay, so another good question, perceptive, because if we forgive but don't fully reconcile, did we forgive? So the best forgiveness is forgiveness that takes the relationship back to what it was. Okay? So as the ayah that was quoted, فَمَنْ عَفَى وَأَصْلَحَ فَأَجْرُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ. So whoever forgives, and in that forgiveness, it will أَصْلَحَ. You can translate that as reforms and also reconciles, meaning that forgives and then goes back to the way it was before. Fixes the relationship so that it goes back to what it was before. And another interpretation, afa, he forgives or she forgives, but in their forgiveness, they are reforming the other person. They're fixing the other person through that forgiveness. Okay? Anyway, inshallah, so that we just focus on what the question is asking. The best forgiveness is forgiveness that takes you back to the way it was, meaning that I forgive completely and I go back to smiling and let me see. Okay, pause a little bit. Okay, going back, and this is the Adhan al-Isha, inshallah, if you're outside of Canada. This is Isha. So, now. So, yes, forgiveness, right? The best forgiveness is the one that takes you back to the old relationship, the way it was. When there is no hostility, no reservations, you invite each other as you used to invite each other before, assist each other as you used to do before, exactly like it was before. That's the best forgiveness. And whenever it's possible, that's what you want to get. That's what you want to do, inshallah. If not, it's not full forgiveness, but it's still better than nothing. So if I'm not able to forgive absolutely 100%, but I at least can say salam to them, smile in their face, give them their rights that are obligations on me to give, then that is at least a minimum that we want to reach. The best and the better forgiveness is to go back to the way that we used to be before, whenever that is possible. That, as I understand, sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes I can't forgive to that extent. It's not an obligation on you to forgive to that extent. Sometimes, as the question previously said, I need to maintain some distance because I want to be more cautious than I was before. Sometimes that's wisdom. Okay? But whenever the circumstances allow, and whenever yourself allows you, the ability to forgive completely is what we want to do. Because if we don't do that, then there will always be a distance between us and everybody else around us. I forgave, but not completely. And this person, and that person, and that person. So there'll always be a gap with everybody around. We ultimately need, for our own sake, whenever it's appropriate, whenever I can trust this person again, to forgive completely. So at least I'm not holding on to anger and resentment anymore. So whenever it is wise, whenever it is possible, forgive completely. Sometimes it's wise to forgive, but partially, until you make sure that the other person is ready for it. Wallahu a'lam. So it is forgiveness, but it's not full. So when possible, forgive completely. When not possible, it's not an obligation on you. And Allah is not going to ask that of you. Wallahu a'lam.
Question number 8, page 195. Abu Muslim al-Khawlani said, donate your reputation to the day of your poverty and take something from nothing. What is the balance between donating your reputation and protecting your honor?
Okay. So again, he was talking about the balance. What's the balance between protecting my reputation, okay, or donating your reputation? Donating your reputation meaning what? Meaning that you're not defending yourself. Somebody accuses you, insults you, this and that. You're not defending yourself. You're not bothering with this. So what is the balance between forgiving others, let's call it, forgiving others for attacking your reputation versus protecting your honor? And again here, the balance is, first of all, halal and haram. Like if you're confused about anything, okay, I said, where's the balance? Where's the line? The first line that Allah had given you in everything is halal and haram. Halal and haram. Okay? So as long as there is halal and haram available and are clear to you, you'll know where to stand. Beyond that is recommended. And the recommended is not an obligation on you. You can do it, or if you choose, you may not do it. Halal and haram, for instance. So for instance, I'm just trying to think of an example that could help. Somebody, for instance, comes and he insults you, and you're able to take it. Okay, you're able to take it, and there is no harm that is going to come from it more than that mere insult. Somebody tells you, "What, are you crazy? Are you blind?" Okay, you run into him, right? Are you crazy? Are you blind? Can't you see? Now you can choose what. If that's an attack on you, you can choose to reply and say, "No, you're blind." Okay, or to be harsh, or you can just ignore it and say, "No, I am not," and you keep walking. There's not a lot of harm here. It's not bringing you a lot of harm. Somebody came and says, "You stole, you're a thief." Okay, you stole this and you stole that. Or I've seen you committing this haram. You're this and you're that. Now, the damage that this could bring is big. If he accuses you of theft, accuses you, let's say, for instance, of zina, accuses you of embezzlement, the harm that this is going to bring is a lot. Now, the thing is, can you live with that harm or not? So for some people, right, depending on the insult, right, depending on the accusation, for some people, right, you say, I don't want anything from anyone. I'm not going to punish you for it. I'm not going to seek revenge. I'm not anything. Go. And for other people will say, no, if I don't punish that person, he's going to keep doing it and will really harm me and my family. I am within my right to stop him and punish them. Where is the line? The line is with you. The line is with you, and the line is with how much harm this is causing and what you can tolerate and not. The harm is with you, or the line is with you. If you say that this is too much, I can't handle it. Okay? Because Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَجَزَاءُ سَيِّئَةٍ سَيِّئَةٌ مِثْلُهَا فَمَنْ عَفَى وَأَصْلَحَ فَأَجْرُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ. He says, the reward of a sin is a sin like it. The second one is not a sin really, but Allah called it that because it's in retaliation for the first one. But then he says, فَمَنْ عَفَى وَأَصْلَحَ, if one forgives and reconciles, his reward is with Allah. You say, okay, where is the line? When do I punish and when do I forgive? You say, Allah, did Allah give you a line, specific line? There's no specific line. Where is the line? It's with you. You decide when to punish and when to forgive. You decide it. So how do I know when to punish and when to forgive? You say forgiveness is always better unless punishment will bring greater good. When will punishment bring greater good? When it stops the harm that person is doing. Somebody who steals, like an example. Somebody steals something. And this is his first offense. And you catch him. Let's say that we're living in an Islamic society that will punish Islamically for theft. You catch him. This is the first time that he had stolen. And he feels terrible about it. It's recommended that you let him go. Theft, let him go. Why? This is his first time. Conceal, protect. Conceal and protect. But you catch someone who's a repeat offender, who is terrorizing your neighborhood, and you catch him, okay? And you know that if you let him go, he's gonna keep stealing, and he's gonna harm other people. Do you let him go? He says, no, you take him to the authorities so that you can punish them. Where is the line? Is that if I forgive, it brings the greatest good to me and to other people. And if I punish, it brings greater good. That is a line. There's another line, what you can take and what you can't. Allah allowed it that if somebody does something bad to you, within, reason, right? You do something bad in return to them. Okay? He allowed it. No one can come and blame you and say you have to forgive. But the path of forgiveness is better. So somebody insults you and says you're crazy. You're allowed to go back and say you're crazy. You're allowed. Or to forgive, that's better. You say, when can I say this and when that's up to you. Can you be patient? He says, yeah. He says, then be patient. Don't retaliate. Sometimes, no. Sometimes I simply can't be patient. I need to punish. I need to say something. They say, as long as you can be just, punish. But you have to be just. Like what? He says you're crazy. In retaliation, you can say, no, you're the one who's crazy. Don't say you're crazy and your family is crazy. You're in the wrong then. See the difference? If you want to retaliate, you say exactly what that person has said. If it's allowed. And you can't say, for instance, if he says, forgive me for saying this. If he says, you bastard, you can't say, oh, you're the bastard. No. You can't accuse him of being a bastard. Forgive me for saying this. You can't accuse him because you've crossed the line. He had crossed the line when he said it, and you cross the line when you say it. Okay? But an idiot to an idiot, yeah, that's okay. You can say this. But not that word. You can't accuse somebody of being a bastard because this is zina, an accusation of zina. You can't say this. So you have to be just, and it has to be within reason. That's why the path of forgiveness is a lot better, a lot greater. But the line is what we talked about. Which one brings greater harm? Which one brings greater benefit? Which thing can you tolerate and which thing you cannot? Okay, so that's where the line is. Wallahu a'lam.
Okay, last question for Hadith 15. Is it true when Allah takes away appreciation, love, concern from others towards us is part of His blessings? or mercy as it is easier to seek His love?
I think so, yes. That when Allah Azza wa Jal sometimes takes away people that you love from around you, or loved ones, or love from around you, can this be looked at as Allah Azza wa Jal bringing you closer to Him so that you would love Him more? See, Wallahu A'lam, this could be the case. In fact, this is the case. Because as long as you have, and we all want to have loved people around us, right? So there's no reason to reject that or belittle it. No, we need our loved ones around us, no question. But if it happens, if it is the case that you start losing loved ones, if it is the case that you start losing love or feeling dissatisfied in it around you, what is going to happen is that you will start seeking it from somewhere else. And this might be a way where Allah Azza wa Jal is moving you closer to Him because you don't have the love that you need around you. So you can only look for it. Where is it? It's only with Allah Azza wa Jal. It's a possibility. That's why they said that. Wallahu A'lam. Ibrahim alayhi salam was asked, Allah asked him to sacrifice his son Ismail. Right? So why Ismail? Because Ismail was his love. Ismail alayhi salam was Ibrahim's love alayhi salam. His first child, only child. So when he said sacrifice, Allah did not want the death of Ismail. But Allah wanted Ibrahim alayhi salam to imagine, to think, to feel, I could lose him. So if I lose him, okay, and there's a great deal of sacrifice that Ibrahim alayhi salam was willing to make. If I lose him, I still have Allah? I still have Allah Azza wa Jal. So your love for Allah grows because you've lost, or there's the possibility of losing that love. Where is it? Where would I take the love that I've given to Ismail? Where would I get it from? I'd get it from Allah. So when you start losing love, you'll turn, because you need a replacement, a compensation. Allah Azza wa Jal is the compensation. So it is true, yes, that when Allah is taking something away from you, Allah is taking it so that He could give you His love, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. We have answered all questions with Hadith 15. So now we're moving to Hadith 16, the merciful heart. Question number 1, how to be merciful when we are angry?
Okay.
I read all the things, right?
Yes, all of them. Yeah, all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have how to be merciful when we are angry. Number 2, how do we be balanced between being firm and merciful? Number 3, how do you balance as parents between mercy and disciplining our child to ensure that she or he will be a righteous person, excellent, and has taqwa?
Okay. Inshallah. So again, it's the issue of balance. How do you maintain first? So how do you maintain balance between being merciful and angry? You can get angry, but don't transgress the bounds of Allah, the halal and haram. So if you get angry, it says, how do I maintain it? He said, at least when you get angry and you're going to punish, do not violate halal and haram. Meaning the line of haram, don't cross. This is at least a minimum, that when you're angry, you're not going to be unmerciful, cruel. Okay? Another way maybe of doing that, inshallah, is to let your anger subside and then decide to act. Okay? So let your anger subside, go down, and then decide to act. So this is the balance. You can get angry if you want, but don't say and don't do something that will go against what Allah wants, whatever Allah had obligated. And let your anger goes down. What's the balance between being firm and merciful? It's the same thing. The halal and haram is the line. You can't be merciful, okay, and break Allah's rule in the process. That's not mercy. Mercy is in Allah's rule. So sometimes in Allah's punishment, in Allah's punishment, there is mercy. In Allah's punishment, there is mercy. So here you're being firm because you're being merciful. So if I tell my kids, wake up for Fajr, and Fajr is really early, It's at 4 o'clock, let's say. Okay? Mercy is not to let them sleep. Mercy is to wake them up and to insist that they wake up and to tolerate, right, repeated attempts to wake them up and their complaints and, them dragging themselves out of bed, to tolerate all of that, because that's mercy. And when the Prophet ﷺ says that when your children don't pray at 10, when they're 10, hit them, and hitting them does not beating them up, right? It's a light tap, right? Just to let them know, right, that this is serious. And it's kind of like, it's a light physical punishment, right? Not slapping them and hitting them and punching them in the face. That's not allowed. I'm saying just a tap, a slight, light physical punishment to let them know that this is serious. That is mercy. Taking them to the doctor for an injection that could make them, if it's a vaccine, let's say, like could make them ill for a couple of days, that's mercy, though there's pain in it. So how do you maintain it? By halal and haram, what Allah loves, what Allah hates. If you're confused, just look at, what does Allah want me to do here? This, that's where mercy is. That's it. What does Allah want me here? To not do that. That's it. That's where mercy is at. Not what I feel, but whatever Allah Azza wa Jalla wants. How do we maintain balance as parents between mercy and disciplining our children? The same way. The same way. And and do it early on so that it's part of her part of her lifestyle. That's mercy. Okay? That's what Allah Azza wa Jalla loves. So if you're confused about where it is, seek what Allah loves. That is what mercy, where mercy is located. Now,
can you elaborate on punish with kindness?
Punish with kindness, meaning that don't punish because you're angry. Like you become so angry and red-faced that you punish and you hit and you yell. And you're doing it simply because you're angry. You're not doing it to help. You're doing it because you're angry. I don't know if you had those teachers maybe before who they get so angry. I remember them. They get so angry, they punish the students. Okay, they hit them or they slap them, or that's not punishment to reform. That's punishment to vent. It's just I'm screaming. I'm frustrated, so they hit. You now don't want to be a person who hits or screams because you're angry. You want to fix your child. So if you are going to hit, okay, wherever that is allowed, right? If you are going to hit, okay, and I said, and that's the difference between somebody who hits to reform and hits because they're angry. If you're slapping somebody on the face, your child on the face, you're not reforming. You're not reforming. You're not fixing. You're not guiding. You're angry. Okay? Okay? And if that's the case, you need to find somebody your own size because you're fighting with a child. If you're wanting to reform, see how Allah Azza wa Jal wants you to deal with that child. What is best? Maybe at that point, maybe the best thing is for you to cool off a little bit, then come down and in a calm voice, but also in a kind voice, right? Say, you didn't do this. And then as a consequence, I told you before, there's going to be a consequence. And this is what is going to be the consequence. This is the price. And I'm doing this because I love you. I'm doing this because this is good for you. Right? So we're going to lose Instagram. Okay. I didn't see that. Okay. So, yeah, anyway, so we lost Instagram. So if you know anybody on Instagram, ask them, inshallah, to either join Zoom or YouTube. So do it for their sake. And if you're doing it for their sake, you do it in the best way. And sometimes explaining why you're doing it. And sometimes explaining even before. I have no choice, but if you do this, to do that in return. And I'm not doing this because I hate you. I'm not doing this because I'm being mean to you. I'm doing this to this and this and this. So they understand why the punishment is there. That there is love also behind it, right? That's what it means.
Question number 2. Please provide best advice dealing with influential family members who speak harshly, especially with girls, and do not establish salah, zakah, etc. Next question. If you have a family member who is spoiled, drug addict, has been giving trouble to entire family and continues to do so, how do we as an elder sister give impactful advice to this person with mercy?
Okay, inshallah. So, I mean, whenever you need to give advice to somebody and it's difficult, that one of the things that will pave way for your advice is dua. That's first. And your own taqwa, piety, that's second. So you want to be that person, okay, who is close to Allah Azza wa Jal, that what they say is meaningful. So a lot of times maybe what happens is that when we say and when we give advice, it doesn't have an impact because we are not that close to Allah ourselves. So our advice doesn't really reach their hearts. That's a possibility. I'm not saying that's always the case, but it is a possibility. So make sure first that we are okay and we're closer to Allah. So what we say has an effect. Second, keep making dua all the time. Keep making dua all the time. Third, I would say, try to be kind with that person, with those two people. The influential person who is cruel, doesn't pray, doesn't fast, etc. Cruel, try the path of kindness. The brother that the sister is talking about who has given trouble, he's a drug addict, he's this and that, try the path of kindness. Okay? Meaning, give advice, make dua for them, but also as you're giving advice, express love. So why are you giving them advice? He's a drug addict. He's giving, as he says, he's been troubling the family for a very long time. So when you sit and you're giving them advice, why are you giving them advice? Tell them why. I love you. I mean, I feel for you. I want you to escape this. Or for the other person, I said, I see how you're treating other people, and I know that you can be better. I know that you can behave better. So tell them why is the reason you're giving advice, and express your love for them. Express your love for them. That is a motive, and I think it's a real motive. That's why you're doing it. So express your love for them and try to keep that advice and try to keep giving it and making dua. And maybe, inshallah, Allah Azza wa Jalla will open their hearts. It may take a while. Now, if after some time, you find you're completely exhausted and overwhelmed and you can't keep giving advice anymore, and it's taking its toll on you, let me see. So, is it back? Yeah, I think we're back. So if you keep giving advice and it's taking its toll on you, and you simply need to distance yourself from them, you're allowed to do this. So if there's a family member who you simply cannot help anymore, that's okay. You can't help them anymore. Or the influential family member who keeps hurting people and you can't repeated advice, you can't help anymore, and you just need some distance from them, that may be the remedy possible. But as long as you have not decided that you're going to distance yourself from them, as long as you still feel you can still fix, you can still advise, the best way is make dua, make sure that you are fine with Allah Azza wa Jal, and give that advice with kindness. And keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. One of those days you don't know. And even if sometimes, subhanAllah, when you decide to give up, what you've said will stay with them, and maybe someday they'll wake up and realize what you have said and you were trying to do. So maybe, wallahu alam, that's the best I have for you so far, inshallah.
Okay, when we distance, if it's like our blood related, how do we maintain the silatul rahim? Do we just message them would be sufficient without visiting them? How do we do it?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like maintaining silatul rahim depends on the level of harm. So if we're talking about someone who's a drug addict and it's really dangerous to be around them, texting or calling would be the only option, I assume, in some circumstances. Because visiting them or them visiting your house may be out of the question for some people. So it depends on the level, right? If it's not a drug addict, but somebody who always causes pain and discord whenever they visit you, maybe Salatul Rahim is you visiting them, not them visiting you. So it depends, right? How it is, how much they need you and need from you. So sometimes, and for some people, depending on how close it is, a phone call is plenty. For other people, maybe we're not meeting at my home, as I said, but meeting at their home. Um, so it's a balance depending on the level of harm and then how close they are to you. But at least, you know, a phone call or texting, at least, right? There's some connection. When he said distance, at least there's some connection. You did not abandon them completely. At least that.
Okay, inshallah. Yeah. Question number 3. How to advise person who has knowledge but does not have mercy to other people?
Naam. So how to advise a person who's knowledgeable but is not merciful? As we said before, inshallah, anonymous advice. I think we've answered a couple of questions like that. So give anonymous advice to that person, write a letter to them, send an email, anonymous email. And if you can, I was thinking about it, if you can point out to specific things that they have done. When you were speaking to that person, I see when you're commenting on this, mention it so that it's not very vague. So they understand you mean this and you mean that. And maybe then they can either reflect on what they have done and change, or at least send you something back and explain what they have done. Maybe they have an excuse. Maybe they need to act in this way. Maybe. But if not, maybe they'll be able to tell you. But let it be anonymous, since they are knowledgeable. Let it be anonymous. More likely, inshallah, they will accept that from you. Hopefully, that will be a way for them to change, inshallah. Allah.
Inshallah. Question number 4. Is my understanding correct? Be merciful in dealing with Muslim at all times, and be firm with merciful hearts towards disbelievers, cause guidance might reach them through us.
No. So yes, be merciful with all Muslims. Okay, be merciful. رحماء بينهم. Allah says رحماء, they're merciful with each other. So mercy is the basic and default attitude with all Muslims, whether you know them or not. With the kuffar, right, you still need to maintain mercy, but also at the same time there is that izzah, dignity and honor, meaning, you know, don't lower yourself, okay, or, you know, humiliate yourself before a non-Muslim or a non-believer, because then they may think that they have power over you, and that power comes from their religion or their way of life, and your humility comes from what? Your religion and your way of life. With a Muslim, they'll understand. You're being humble, but you both are Muslims. You're being humble, and he'll understand that you're being humble because of Islam. The problem is that if you want to be humble before a non-Muslim, they may think that your humility is weakness. And you don't want that to happen. So you need to maintain dignity. That's what it means. Ashidda meaning what? Means there's dignity, a'izzah. You have dignity, but also you're not rude with non-Muslims, right? Otherwise, no one is going to accept Islam. You're not cruel. You're not without mercy. Otherwise, why would anybody accept Islam? You have dignity, but mercy. You have still kindness. But when it comes to Muslims, you have rahmah and you have tawadu, humility, so that, you know, you serve them, you know, you tolerate their abuse, this and that, for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. With the non-Muslims, you need to show some dignity, right? So that they don't get the wrong impression that, oh, we can do that to Muslims. So dignity, nobility, but at the same time, what? Mercy. So this is what it is, inshallah.
Okay, sure. Question number 5, Sheikh. I read there is this 4 raka'ah with 2 sitting sunnah prayer that we do before Fard Asr, especially to seek Allah's mercy. Please advise. Barakallahu feek.
Naam. So there's a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ where he says, may Allah's mercy be upon someone who prays 4 rak'ahs before Asr. So this 4 rak'ahs is not kind of the emphasized sunnah, like not sunnah mu'akkada or ratiba, but this is a nafil or a sunnah that you can pray. If you want to pray it every day, you can. If you miss it, it would not be said that you have missed a emphasized sunnah. So 4 rak'ahs before Asr, yes, that is legitimate. The Prophet ﷺ used to do that, and you can do that. So you can pray 2 rak'ahs, nafil or sunnah, and then you can pray, inshallah, 4 rak'ahs of Asr, inshallah. So yeah, that's authentic.
Okay, question number 6. How should we demonstrate mercy while our hating that our children are sometimes disobeying Allah. Okay, question number 7. Is the best way for a parent to educate their children about mercy to follow the method of Allah, treating children with mercy regardless of how they treat you? Always kind?
Okay, inshallah. So it says, how do we demonstrate mercies, right? While hating that our children are sometimes disobeying Allah. So you see that your child is, and it depends, by the way, on the age of the child. I mean, you're not treating somebody who's 18 like somebody who's 7, right? It's not the same. Anyway, so when we say children, right, is so broad. So if they disobey Allah Azza wa Jal, of course, I need to hate that disobedience. I need to let them know that this is something that Allah hates, and also that I hate it. But that does not make me hate them. So they have to understand that from you, and depending on the level of sin, right? Depending on the level of sin, because some sins are really big. Some sins are really big. So again, not clear what sin we're talking about. So, but the tricky thing with these questions, inshallah, is that I want you to appreciate this: is that I don't understand exactly what the questioner is asking about. So it could be a small sin that they're asking about, or a big sin. So sometimes I have an idea in my head, but it's not exactly what the questioner has. So if it doesn't match what your question is, ask it again, inshallah, or clarify, or ask me to answer differently, or just pinpoint, inshallah, exactly what you're saying. So anyway, how do you demonstrate mercy? Is by explaining why this is wrong, and why that makes you upset, and why you fear for them. And it's not about control. It's not about you wanting them to do everything you believe in, everything according to your way. It's because you fear for them and you care for them. So as Allah Azza wa Jal, when he explains that there is punishment, that punishment has an intent, and that intent is to reform, that intent is to deter, that intent is to fix. As Allah explains it, you want to need to explain that in the Quran. I'm not telling you not to do this because I don't want you to have fun, not to want you to express yourself. I don't want you to do this because it will hurt you. And when they sense that concern, even if they disagree with you, but when they sense that concern, at least they will know I have a parent who cares about me, even though I may disagree with them. But at least I know that they care. They do it out of concern. So how do you do it? You said, by, let's say, differentiating between, okay, you're doing this and I hate it and I want you to stop, but at the same time, you're my child, and this is the reason why I hate that for you. So they understand where you're coming from. And if you want to punish, or if you want to discipline, punish and discipline in ways that help them, not in ways that simply releases your anger, or relieves you of stress. It's not about you, it's about them, right? So wallahu a'lam. Now, the best way for a parent to educate their children about mercy is to follow the method of Allah, meaning treat children always with mercy, regardless of how they treat you, always kind. It doesn't mean that no matter what they do, you have to be kind in the sense of, nice all the time. And sometimes you have to be firm. Sometimes you have to be angry. Again, anger what? Anger to help them, not anger because you're simply frustrated. Angry, right? For Allah's sake. So sometimes you need to be angry. Sometimes you need to be firm. Sometimes you need to deny them, as Allah Azza wa Jal does. So Allah sometimes punishes. Okay? Allah sometimes punishes. As we said, is that means that He's devoid of mercy? No. He punishes out of His mercy, because you need that punishment. So it doesn't mean that, okay, maybe kindness, mercy means, when I'm raising my children, is that I let them raise their voice. I let them, slam the door in my face. I let them, go ahead and, have the worst of manners, and I'm still smiling and happy. And that's not mercy. You're not doing anybody any favor. When doing this, actually, this is the greatest disfavor. When you don't discipline and you don't put your foot down and you don't punish, they're going to be the worst kids when they grow up. So mercy means what? Mercy means when you need to discipline and when you need to punish, and punish, between quotation, punish meaning what? Show them the consequence of their deeds. Time out, deny them the toy that they love. That's what I mean. So when you are going to discipline your child, do it for their sake, okay? And do it knowing that that itself is merciful. That itself is merciful. And let them know, as I said previously, let them know why you're doing this. Okay, you can't go and play with your friends. I told you to do your homework. You did not. You can't go and play with your friends. And he screams, and I need to, and I have. It says, you understand why this is happening, and it's to your own advantage. If you don't do this, ultimately this is going to be the consequence. You're not going to graduate. You're not going to have this. You're not going to have that. You're not going to even have friends anymore. This is for your own good. Do this, and then you're going to get that. You'll understand at least there's a rationale behind the punishment, right? Behind your attitude, not simply screaming. There's a reason. So you'll understand later on that if I don't do this, I'm not going to get that. Okay. And then when they do what you want them to do, express love, express mercy, express appreciation, so that they understand that when they're doing something wrong, there are consequences, but also when they're doing something right, there is love that is waiting for them. Allah, that's the mercy that we need to have. And so they understand either way, even when you punish them, you love them. And it's for their own sake. Even when you punish them, you're merciful. That is for their own sake. Inshallah. Allah.
Okay. Question number 7, Sheikh. Can you please summarize in a simplified manner a checklist of things that we should have to ensure that we are under the mercy of Allah?
Naam, inshallah. So, I mean, it's not possible to have a list of what are the things that we should do, right, to be under the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal, because simply it's everything that Allah loves will put you under Allah's mercy. And whatever Allah Azza wa Jal hates will take you partially outside of that. So this is it. And pay special attention to whatever Allah has said or whatever His Prophet ﷺ had said about what brings Allah's mercy. So if you are merciful, Allah will be merciful with you, right? So that's an example of it. So when you go through the Quran, through the Sunnah, just make a list of those things. Or in general, inshallah, everything that Allah loves brings His mercy. And whatever Allah hates is the opposite, right? So this is just as simply and inshallah the answer. Yeah.
So basically doing all halal things.
Exactly.
And avoiding haram things, including like proper hijab or whatever.
Of course. Whatever Allah loves, right? As you said, all the halal, all the obligations, the recommended, that's what brings Allah's mercy. Then you go into the haram, and then the dislike, that decreases it, right? Although the disliked, is not punishable, but it just brings you closer to the haram. So, Allah.
Okay. Question number 8. How do we guide our children to be merciful among siblings? As sometimes the elder ones lose patience with the young ones. Expect young ones to be perfect and forgot about their flaw when they were young.
Yeah, so the older sibling, how do you educate them and teach them to be merciful because they're being too firm, too strict with their younger siblings? How do you teach them that? The first thing, of course, is model. Have they seen you practice mercy? Have you seen you practice patience? So if they've seen that, they have a model. And you can point to it and say, see how I've acted, see how I act. So when they see a model, especially even if they are an older sibling, I don't know how old they are, but they're still young. That's my assumption. They're still young. They have not fully developed. So if they saw you as a model, they can always remember, okay, my mother, my father acts this way. So they'll repeat. Because especially when you're young, you can repeat. You don't have the faculty yet, to be able to say, oh, this is right, this is wrong, and this is wise, this is unwise. Look into the consequences. You don't have that yet. But you can repeat, you can imitate. So if they've seen you do it, Okay, they'll imitate you, or you can point to what you've done and say, you see how I act? You see how when someone screams what I say, do exactly what I'm doing. That's one. Second of all, of course, recognize also, I don't know how severe the situation is, but recognize that, I mean, this may be natural, right? As they were flawed when they were young, at this age, this is also part of their flaw. They haven't acquired the wisdom to be merciful yet. So you need, inshallah, to be patient with them and to teach them practically how to be merciful and how to be patient. No, don't respond to your kids like that, to your brothers and sisters like that. Respond this way, because this brings the best reaction. Try it the next time. Try it the next time. So you are also teaching them as they're experiencing life how to act. So you're teaching them mercy. So don't expect them to be merciful. Maybe their personality did not allow it yet. They did not acquire that trait yet. Maybe you need to teach it. So be patient and teach it, like you're teaching a young child. Just teach it and explain why. Explain that mercy and kindness brings the best results, and tell them what to do when they get angry. So when you get angry, what to do? So do this, do this, do this, and you'll see that it will have, inshallah, the best consequences. So you be patient with them. Don't expect them to be perfect themselves. They're gonna make mistakes. So just work with those mistakes, inshallah, and in time, inshallah, they will evolve and they will embrace what you want them to embrace, inshallah.
Question number 9, Sheikh. How to have mercy with an incompetent team member at work? Do you take the blame on behalf all the time and at the same time guide the person?
No, so with a coworker, right, or a team member, how do you maintain mercy with them? So, okay, you're the team leader and they're working under you and they're incompetent. How do you be merciful with them? It really depends on, this is how where it gets complicated. It depends on how they're affecting the rest of your team, the work productivity. Can you work with them? Can they improve? Do they have potential? Because if you keep taking on their taking on their mistakes, is there a way where, or an end to that, where you would say, okay, I imagine that in 6 months or 1 year they'll be fine, inshallah, and I would have solved their problems by hiding it, but also by working and improving their skills? Is that the case? Or is the case where I'm simply going to cover up? Well, till when? And is this affecting and harming other people or not? So hard to tell. Mercy sometimes isn't exactly maybe what you're saying. Cover up their mistakes, but at the same time teach them and train them and give them some more responsibilities that develop their skills. And in time, what happens is that they will be the person that you want them to be competent. If that's what you are doing, alhamdulillah, that's mercy. If their presence in your team is causing harm, okay, to other people, maybe at times the merciful thing to do is to replace them. Because if their presence is causing more harm, it doesn't make sense to keep them and harm other people. So it just simply depends. Depends where mercy is at. So consider, as I always say, mercy is where the benefit is. Let's call it this way. If there's more benefit in keeping them and in, let's say, educating and training, then do. If mercy is in removing them, because that's best for them, but also best for the rest of the team, then that's where mercy is at. So Allah. Yeah.
Okay. Inshallah. Question number 10. Can someone whom Allah gives abundantly in wealth be out of mercy of Allah if they treat the daughter-in-law without mercy and at times speaks harshly to her son?
Okay. So someone has a lot of money, but they're not nice to their daughter-in-law and her children. Is that person out of Allah's mercy? No. You can't say that they're out of Allah's mercy. As long as they are Muslims, as long as they pray, as long as they're fast, they have a portion of Allah's mercy, but they lose a portion of it because of these bad things that they're doing. So we can't say that if somebody is cruel that he's completely out of Allah's mercy. Yeah, even the kafir, the non-believer, is not completely out of Allah's mercy, right? Even those who say Allah, as if they accuse Allah, or they don't even believe in a God, Allah still feeds them and protects them and keeps them healthy. That's mercy. So that person who is a Muslim, I'm assuming, right? They're Muslim, and they're being cruel to their daughter-in-law and their grandson, I assume too, right? So if that's the case, right, are they out of Allah's mercy? No, not out, completely out. But they have lost some of it because they're being cruel. They've lost some of it. If they want to retain or retrieve that mercy, they have to be merciful with others. So if they're merciful, Allah will be more merciful with them. If they are less merciful, Allah will be less merciful with them. But He'll always be merciful with everybody, right? No matter what they do. Yeah.
Okay, inshallah. Question number 11. How do we be merciful and maintain good relationships with one who disobey Allah? For example, not praying.
Right. So, I mean, if someone is not praying or is sinful, how do you be merciful with them and maintain good relations with them? Imagine if that it was you, the one who's not praying, and the one who is committing that sin. How would you want the other person to act or react to you? And that's exactly the same way you should react to them. Do you want them to if you were the one who is not praying and committing that sin, do you want everybody around you to boycott you? At some point, that it may help if really everybody boycotts you and you feel alone, and then that pushes you to be close to Allah Azza wa Jal. That's great. But if you are the one who, if that person is the only one who can guide you, and they stay away from you, and they don't talk to you, and it hurts, and they don't give you advice, and they frown on your face whenever they see you, is that how you would want to be treated? How do you want to be treated? They say, okay, even though I'm not praying, I want that person to be nice to me and to remind me that prayer is important and never give up on me. That's what I want to be, right? And though I may be committing that sin, I want that person to be patient with me and to easy to give up sins, to make dua for me, and to be patient and to keep giving me advice until Allah gives me the strength to leave that sin. That's what we want from them. This is how you maintain a good relationship and be merciful with them, by imagining that they are you, and imagining, okay, how do I want people to treat me if I'm that person? Now, I mean, if contact with them is harmful, that's something else. That's a different question. But I'm assuming contact with them is not harmful. So if you can be in touch with them and keep giving them advice and consulting giving them counsel and making dua to them, to keep doing that. Because if you retreat and you're not around, who else is going to be there to save them? So that's what I'm saying. How do you maintain mercy and good relations is pick up the phone, talk to them, ask about them. You can go and visit them. You can go out with them to eat. Even though they're not praying, even though they're committing this particular sin, right? But they're not doing it when you are around them. And when you're doing this, you're trying to build a relationship with them, right? And on the foundation, on top of that relationship, you will give advice. You'll try to bring them closer to Allah Azza wa Jal. You try to point to them why what they're doing is bad, right? So this is how you be merciful, Allah. Yeah.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. The last question, Shaykh. Question number 12. How do we truly be merciful and forgive our parents and dutiful towards them when they neglected our emotional and spiritual needs while growing up and they did not bond with us?
Yeah, this is a good question too. How do we be merciful? How do we forgive our parents and be nice to them when they have neglected us when we were young, spiritual and emotional needs, and they did not bond with us? Now, no parent is going to be perfect. I'm thinking that if you ask anybody, right? And I know some parents are better than other parents. I understand that. But if you ask anybody, were your parents perfect? They will say no. Can you point out to some mistakes that they've done? They will say definitely yes. Things that they should have done differently, you say definitely yes. Because no parent is perfect. And if you yourself are a parent right now, trying your best with your children, you definitely, if you were to ask your children now or when they grow up, were you perfect? They will say no. And some of their assessment may be flawed, but some of it is actually true, because you can't be perfect. You have and you will commit mistakes as parents. Okay, if we accept this, then we'll accept the fact that maybe it is the case that our parents tried their best. This was their best. They could have done better, but they didn't know any better. Nobody taught them. They didn't have the information. They didn't have the books. They didn't have the training. Okay? They were not religious. Okay? They were not, the level of their education was this. They did whatever they could within what was available, circumstances. They could have done better, but Allah, this is how Allah Azza wa Jal destined it. Now, either I'm going to be a prisoner of the past, thinking that they did not do this, they did not do this, they did not do that, and that's it, and can continue to suffer because of it, or I'll say, I'm going to go past this. I'm going to grow past it by saying that they did their best, and I recognize it. And they are flawed human beings, and I recognize it. And I am a flawed human being, and I recognize it. Now, what do I do with that? Now I have a chance to do maybe what they possibly couldn't. Build that bond that the sister is talking about. Build that bond with them that they did not build. Develop something that they couldn't develop. Watch out for their emotional and spiritual and physical needs in ways that they couldn't do with me. Meaning, be a better person. If I don't think that they've done a good job, well, let's demonstrate, at least for myself and to Allah Azza wa Jal, that I could do better than what they did. But if I neglect them, okay, if I neglect them because of what they've done in the past, then I've also compromised my responsibility. Then I've demonstrated also that they were flawed and I was flawed too. If I don't give them their rights, if I say they didn't give me my rights, and I say no, I'm not giving them their rights, then I'm also flawed, or as flawed as they are. But if you want to be better, if you think, oh, they were terrible, and they can be, and I understand, maybe, I don't know what the percentage, 10%, 5% of parents, they can be really, really terrible. I understand that. But I'm saying, if you think they were terrible, but they've done some good things, but many other things they didn't. Maybe you have the chance to fix it. And you'll feel better if you fix it. Rather than just simply be, as I said, a prisoner of the past of they didn't do this and they didn't do that, and basically lamenting and regretting all these missed opportunities and what if. Maybe we can change that relationship right now. So how to be merciful is by saying, first of all, they were flawed, but I'll forgive these flaws. I'm going to decide to forgive these flaws. They made mistakes, but I'm going to decide to forgive these mistakes because I understand if they could do more, they would have done more, and they did not. I understand that if they could be better, they would have done better, but they couldn't. So this is the limit. So I can't put on them more than what is beyond their ability. I can't. This is they did that. So accept that from them. Accept their limitations and forgive their limitations and grow beyond those limitations and say, now I have an opportunity to build a new relationship. As a child, I couldn't do any more or any better. As an adult, I can. As an adult, to your parents, I can build a different relationship, try to build that relationship. I can try to make the present better than the past, so that you can erase the past. Erase the pain of the past and the frustration of the past. Okay? So this is how you become merciful. And recognize also at the same time that if you have children, that in the future they'll be complaining about you too. So recognize, okay, it's not simply that I'm perfect and they were flawed. No, they're flawed and I'm flawed. Different ways maybe, but I'm flawed and they are flawed. So let me at least admit that, and admit that, yeah, they made mistakes and I'm making mistakes. And I want my kids to forgive my mistakes because I tried my best, but sometimes I'm just completely overwhelmed. And maybe my parents were completely overwhelmed. I didn't see that. I didn't see that they were completely overwhelmed. They were trying. At least you can appreciate that they were trying. Okay? So just forgive the past, build a new relationship, inshallah, and be the best that you can right now. Because inshallah, if that happens, it's for your own sake. For your own sake, you will feel a lot better about your parents and about your past and about your present and about your kids, inshallah. And above all, inshallah, this is pleasing to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Allahu A'lam.
Well, with that, Alhamdulillah, Sheikh. Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh.
Iyyakum.
Jazakallah to Sis Nisa as well. Alhamdulillah, it has been great.
Alhamdulillah.
Many weeks with Sheikh. And it is late there, right, Sheikh, in Toronto?
Yeah, I mean 20 minutes to 10, yeah, inshallah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for everything,
Sure,
Sheikh.
inshallah.
We couldn't express in words how you have helped us. Barakallahu feekum.
Wa iyyakum.
May Allah grant us guidance and tawfiq to implement whatever we have learned from you, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khair. Jazakumullah khair, sister, for your help and effort and maintaining this and broadcasting it and bringing all these sisters together. And may Allah reward you and your family for that. I mean, and may Allah reward everybody who is listening and who's reading and who did not give up yet. Inshallah, keep going and go strong. We're about to reach the midpoint, inshallah, of the book. We'll be doing 17, 18, inshallah. Just point to that, 17, 18, and then 19, 20. And then half of the book is done. Half is done, inshallah. So it's a milestone. Keep pushing, inshallah. Encourage others, inshallah, to read. Keep asking questions. And as long as you're here, inshallah, we'll try to keep answering as many of them as possible. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us of those who hear the best and accept it and follow it. May Allah Azza wa Jal purify our hearts and purify our intentions and make us of those who are closest to Him in this life and in the hereafter. Jazakumullah khairah all for all your valuable questions. Inshallah, we'll hope to keep seeing you, inshallah, in the coming weeks. And conclusions, inshallah, may Allah Azza wa Jal forgive us all, give us the best of this life and in the hereafter, and protect us from the worst in this life and in the hereafter. Jazakumullah khairah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.